that. Those are our babies. Well, anyway, so in 1988, I go from this, having worked for over 10 years on this high fantasy graphic novel series to Beauty and the Beast. Because seeing the TV series, I was completely blown away by it. I completely understood the archetypal approach to the storytelling that they were taking and how they were reframing the fairy tale for modern times. I just got it. And I said, oh my, this is wonderful. This should be a graphic novel. This TV series needs to have more things out there to help raise awareness. Because, I think everyone was pretty much aware that the audience was very, very loyal, but it was a small, what the suits like to call cult following. And they really didn't know what to do with Beauty and the Beast as far as marketing, because they didn't get the audience. They didn't understand fandom, and they didn't really understand their female audience, and so they didn't know how to market to them. So I thought, okay, well, let's propose a graphic novel. And at the same time, I learned that First Comics, who had Olivia de Berardinis on board, who is one of Ron Koslow's favorite artists, they had her on board to do the cover. If they could find somebody to do interiors. So I went to First Comics, talked to Rick Obadiah, who was the then editor-in-chief and publisher there. And I said, okay, in me, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get someone who will not work from publicity stills and photos. I will certainly work from reference and get the likenesses close, but I need the freedom to tell the story. And I need the freedom to exaggerate the faces when I need to for facial expression and drama and whatnot. And yes, they understood that, and I said, and in me, of course, you're also going to get a writer, so you've got the whole package. And so I, as a package, was presented to Ron Koslow, who said, what? We don't need a comic book. We've got a whole TV series. Comic books are just for kids, aren't they? And he was not aware at the time that graphic novels were rising in the consciousness of the public. And so I had to audition for the graphic novels. And the way I had to audition was to provide tons and tons and tons of sketches to prove that, yes, I could get the likenesses of the characters. And I also had to write my treatments and scripts. And there were 3 I had to write before he accepted any. As if they were teleplays, he would only read them in that format. I couldn't write it like an ordinary comic book script. It was very strange. But I learned a lot in the process, and the first 2 that I wrote were kind of Beast and Robbers, Vincent above ground doing lots of scratchy because action is great. But Ron said that with the second season they were going in a much softer direction, and they really wanted to concentrate on the romantic aspect of the relationship. So as I thought it over, I began to realize, okay, how does Vincent feel about Catherine? How does she look to him? I mean, he's got these alien eyes. There might be more that he can see that we can't, because he can sense her soul when she calls out to him and he comes running. So he must have senses of other kinds. So how does she look to him? And I thought, well, depending on how she looks to him, how would he paint her? And the whole idea for the Portrait of Love came from that. I was privileged beyond measure to be able to write an original story about Beauty and the Beast. Ron was very, very protective of Beauty and the Beast, and most of the licenses that were done were adaptations of existing episodes, which contained new material that stretched them. But Ron wanted to stick to the framework of what already existed. And the fact that he trusted me to essentially write and direct 2 new episodes, I still think that's a miracle. And he was over my shoulder, not figuratively. He was not over my shoulder literally, but figuratively over Portrait of Love. And I was not used to this because having been an independent graphic novelist, nobody's over my shoulder with ElfQuest. The buck stops with me. So again, this was a wonderful learning experience and it was similar to what Ron Cosmo himself was going through with the suits at CBS. They're over his shoulder, and he's got this magnificent creation, which he knows where he wants to take, but he's got people watching over his shoulder saying, no, you can't do that, or you take it in this direction. And that's what I was experiencing. So I felt a real strong bond with him at the time. And for the second one, Night of Beauty, I can't believe how he trusted me with that. He did not go over every word of the script 92 times like he did with the first one. He accepted the treatment and he just said, go write it. And he said, I wish we could produce this as an episode, but it would cost about $6 million. And I said, can we dig it up somewhere? No, but it was not to be. But still, in a very strange way, I got to write and direct, and that was wonderful. By an interesting coincidence, about 3 weeks ago, my friend Ken Michironi, who was one of the directors on a very good but underrated movie called Ant Bully, contacted me and said that he had unearthed some footage that he had taken at my studio of me working on Portrait of Love back in 1988, and I flipped out and I said, can you put this on DVD for me, because I'm about to go to a Beauty and the Beast convention? And he said, no problem. So I thought you would love seeing this. This is actual footage. It lasts about 5 minutes of me working on the graphic novel, and while Kenny was filming me, he asked me questions, so there's a little bit of commentary about the creative process, but most of it is just goofing off. And he also filmed my studio and the area in the house that was near my studio, because at the time, and I know you'll get a giggle out of this, I just filled my studio and the house with stuff that I used for inspiration or reference to Beauty and the Beast. So the whole house looked like Father's Den for about 2 years, and Richard had to put up with this. But of course, by then we had bought the house across the street as our office. He lived over there while I was working on the graphic novels. He said, as long as you're going to be unfaithful to the elves, I'm just... so I guess I sort of had an affair on the elves. But it was an affair with Vincent, and I just loved it.